Welcome to the Unstuck Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Miner. This weekly no-fluff mindset show arms you with the practical tools you need to get unstuck so you can get exactly what you want out of life. Remember, when you change your mind, your life will follow. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the Unstuck Podcast. I am thrilled to be here with you, thrilled to have you here with me for this episode all about the power of visualization. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty on a tool that I've been using for a very long time and that I highly recommend all of you start using if you're not already. It's fun, first of all. Super fun to visualize your future self, but also, hey, it works. And I will tell you all of the reasons why visualization actually works to help you achieve your goals and your dreams and your deepest desires. Before we get into it, I do just have a few updates and just things I want to chat with you about. The first thing is to give you a quick little debrief of what I'm doing behind the scenes since making the commitment towards anti-racism, both in myself personally and also professionally. This is really the first episode that I have recorded since the George Floyd protests and amplifying voices and everything that we're doing. This is really the first episode beside the episode that I did sharing all of the work of others. I want to share what's been going on behind the scenes, and really what I'm doing personally for me is I'm understanding that this work has so many different levels and so many different facets. And right now I feel most compelled to start on a very personal level with myself. There are actions I'm taking and will continue to take from a business perspective for sure. And there are things that you will see happen here on the show. And if you are someone who I work with, if you're a client of mine, if you're in one of my courses, you will see some changes there too. But really, I'm just noticing how much I feel the desire to start doing everything with complete intention and focus and really making sure it all makes sense. And in order to do that, I have to start with me. There are some, patterns that need to be disrupted and some thoughts that need to be reconfigured and just some deep-seated stuff that we all really need to go through just from being born into the society and the culture that we've been born into. And that's really where I'm at. I'm doing work daily here on this side of things. And of course, I love teaching. I love sharing what I am learning and what I'm doing here on the show. That's kind of what I've built my whole business around. But for me, at this point, it is very much, I'm still in the student role and I still want to be in the student role. And that's where I am. So yes, I will be speaking more about this. I will be having more people on the show to speak about this. And that's another thing I want to get into also is I am all about building relationships with the people that I do have on the podcast, that I do continue to work with, that I do get to know and share the work of. And so right now, that's the process I'm in too, is getting to know the work of so many Black women and finding the ones that I'm in alignment with and that I would really love to get to know more and to share their information, to have them come on the show, because it would be a really good conversation on both ends. That's where I'm at. So more to come for sure. But I do want you to know that it's not going away and I'm still doing all the work and doing a lot of unlearning, getting really uncomfortable and making the time to do it. And my silence here is not because I want to be silent or that I'm not wanting to do the work. It's that I'm really, really focusing on being intentional right now and being a student right now and instead amplifying others' voices, which I am still doing over on my social media channels and will do here as it starts aligning. So that is that. And another quick update. This is more on the business side of things. My wellness practice that I've now had for 7.5 years, I'm very much in the creation stage again, the being creative, getting things out, building programs and courses and new teachings. That's something I have found myself in that kind of came about during COVID, and it just felt like that time was the right time to really dive into my creativity and my teaching. And that's where I'm at, and I'm enjoying it. I'm loving the flow of all of it coming out, and this is something I've wanted to do for a long, long time. Kind of, I guess, a piece of my business puzzle that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I've been putting it off just for, just waiting for it to be the right time to come out. And this is it. This is the time. So I'm deep in that stage, but I'm also getting ready to invite more people into the Unstuck Collective, which is the monthly mindset membership community that we have created here over with the Unstuck crew, and it is going so well. I'm having a ton of fun with it. I'm enjoying getting to know all of the women. The women are enjoying getting to know each other, and it really is such a safe space to do this work together, to be the high vibe women we're looking to be, and to have our moments where we need to get back into alignment and need some kind of guidance or just support or camaraderie with that. We're doing all of that. And we're also in the point where we're having our first expert coaching call, which happens quarterly. And that is where I bring an expert in on some other related topic, and we dive into it even further as a small group. And that happened this week with Victoria, who was on the show in episode 47, where we talked about human design. So she went over some of the basics of human design, and then I invited her into the private group, the Unstuck Collective community, to do an even deeper reading for all of our human design charts. So that's something that you can look forward to if you do want to be a part of the Unstuck Collective community. And I will be opening the doors for new members starting in August. So you want to get that on the calendar for sure. And you want to also be on the wait list, because you will be the first to know when those doors open and you can get your spot. There are very limited amount of spots because I do want to keep it, intimate and cozy and let us all have the opportunity to get to know one another and feel like it still is a very safe space. So not a ton of people coming into this membership, but I do want to, we're all ready for some new faces and some new voices, and we're getting excited for that. So that will be coming up very soon in August. Get on the wait list for the Unstuck Collective. That is over at seanminer.com/collective. I will link to that in the show notes. Get your name on that list. You'll be the first to know. And I do want to just remind you that this is for the unstuck gal who is doing the work and wants to add a little extra to that work. So you're already doing your own mindset work. You're doing either through the Unstuck Project, you've done that work, or you're doing what you're learning on this podcast, and you're actually taking the time and really working on it. We are not building a practice, a mindset practice in the collective. We are expanding on what we are already doing. So I won't be teaching you how to build a practice. It's what you already are doing that then we can expand and grow with. So keep that in mind. That's kind of my one caveat or my one descriptor of who would be a good fit for the Unstuck Collective. All right, let's talk visualization, our topic for today. This came to me as a topic I wanted to do when I started watching the Michael Jordan documentary. It's called The Last Dance. It's on Hulu. It might be on Netflix too, ESPN. It's really great. I highly recommend it. I don't like basketball, not into it, not really into watching sports at all. and didn't really know the full story of all of the intricacies of Michael Jordan's career and the Bulls and everything like that. But it was a very interesting documentary, just in so many different facets beyond just the sport. So I do highly recommend it. But what I saw in Michael Jordan were so many like quote unquote mindset hacks, we'll call them, that were part of his routine that made him so successful. So many different things I picked up during that documentary that I was able to see were just mindset shifts he was making, these mindset things he was doing that was literally making him the best athlete on the planet at the time. And there's so many things that we talk about here on Unstuck were similar things to what he was doing and he was applying to his basketball game that, then arguably made him the best basketball player of all time, or one of the best. And one of those was visualization. And it's something that Michael Jordan used, but so do many, many other elite athletes. And they credit their visualization practice to their success in their sport. And not only do athletes use visualization techniques, but so do many other high achieving people in all areas of life, business people, actors, singers, performers, comedians. I mean, so many people use the power of visualization and credit it as well. They also are very in tune with the fact that their visualization practice is helping them accomplish massive goals and creating this life that they've dreamed of living. And so, a lot of these high achieving people really think of visualization as their superpower. And thinking back now to my experiences, I would say that too. It was definitely one of them. It's definitely something that I consider to be one of my mindset superpowers. And let's talk about my story with visualization. But first, before we do that, I have a quote, which is someone who has famously used visualization in their success, and that is Muhammad Ali, who said, "If my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it." And the combination of the two are very, very important. We're going to talk about that coming up. But the mind conceiving it and then the heart believing it. So it's the thought and the feeling, which is going to be important. So today we're going to go over why this works, why visualization works, how you can add it to your mindset practice, and see if it also becomes your superpower on the path to your dreams. So my story with visualization started pretty quickly after I began my own mindset journey, which a lot of you are familiar with now. Most of you know it was when I was still really sick. I was having this rock bottom moment where I was just done feeling sorry for myself and just not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing if I would ever get well again or have my life back again. I was just miserable. I was miserable in my physical body, but I was also miserable in my mental and emotional health. And that's when I really got to this moment where I had no other choice but to begin this mindset work. When it came to visualization, it almost just came out accidentally. I didn't really know that's what I was doing. That's the technique I was using. But it started as me visualizing myself with a healthy body. Again, that was my main concern there, as I just wanted to get healthy. I wanted to get my health and my life back. So having the energy I wanted, being able to do the activities I wanted to do, like hiking and working out and going out with friends, laughing and having a good time, not worrying about how sick I felt or not being able to get out of bed. I was just really seeing myself in this state of health that I had been dreaming about for years at that point, for a few years. And like I said, this happened by accident. And some of you may, after I say this, also see that you're visualizing already too by accident, because I was really working to get to a place where I could feel the way I would feel when I got what I wanted. And we talk about that a lot here on Unstuck, is really getting to that place where you can feel what you want. And in order to do that, I really had to get to that place where I could see myself there, where I could envision what I was doing, how it looked, how I felt. I had to put myself in that situation of having the healthy body I wanted in order to start that process, in order to get the feeling of it so I could, get into that vibration and attract in what I was looking for. So again, like I said, you might already be doing this too, just simply in your meditations or in your when you're journaling or when you're walking and thinking about your future. This may be you as well. So if that sounds like something you're doing, well then great. Keep on doing that for sure. But let's learn a little bit more about why it's working. I think that always helps, or why it will work, what it's doing in your brain and in your body and with your energy, but then also how you can perhaps become a little more intentional with your visualization, which is really what happened to me once I realized that's what I was doing when I was getting to that place where I could feel how I would feel when I had the healthy body I was looking for. I realized I was actually just doing some visualization. I learned a little bit more about the power of that, which is what we're going to talk about today, and really got on board with it. And now it's something that I do regularly, and I'll explain more about how I incorporate it into my mindset work when we get to the how. But I do, like I said, I do think it's a superpower. I think it played a huge role in how I was able to get my health back online. It was also, after it started kind of having this momentum in general with my mindset work for my physical body, as I think a lot of you know, I then went on to start doing this mindset practice, including visualization, with my business and my financial situation. And then it was the home I wanted to live in. And I've talked about that story and the visualization I went through, the kind of envisioning I had of my perfect place. I talked about that in episode 38, if you want to go back and listen to that. And then I called in my partner too, using the mindset practices that we talk about here on Unstuck, which include visualization. So like I said, it all worked. Everything worked. So I think, in a combination with so many other superpowers, visualization is one of them. So let's talk about why it actually is a superpower. First, I want to share with you a study that just shows how powerful our mind is, especially when it comes to visualizing. So there was a study performed where one group was asked to perform mental contractions of their little finger abduction. So they were asked to just visualize themselves, I'm not exactly sure what the exercise was, but if it's little finger abduction, maybe it's like a contraction and release of their little finger, just to visualize doing that, not to actually do it. And then there was another group who performed the actual physical component, the physical training of that little finger abduction. So where one group was just, visualize yourself doing this for 5 minutes, the other group actually did it for 5 minutes for a certain period of time. I don't know the specifics of the study, but I will actually link it in the show notes if you want to read it. It's really cool. And this isn't the only study like this. There are many others to show, but this is just one I picked out. And so anyway, the strength of those that performed the actual physical training, so actually did the little finger movements, was 53% gain in strength. Okay. But the strength in those that only visualized themselves doing that exercise, so they never actually did anything with their pinky finger, their little finger, was 35%. So yes, actually doing the training was, had a higher increase in strength gains, but not doing anything and only envisioning doing that thing increased strength, not by a little bit, by 35%. That is a lot for not actually ever doing anything different. Isn't that crazy? I love studies like this. I think that's really cool. Like I said, there's many more, but I will link to this if you want to read it. It's fascinating. So why? Why in the heck does our body respond to visualizing in this way? So there are two kind of approaches, I guess we'll call them, that I consider when I think about visualization. The first is kind of more of a practical standpoint, super interesting. And the second is more coming from a spiritual standpoint, also very interesting, of course, in my opinion. But I think both, the combination of both, are at play to making your visions become a reality. So let's go through those two reasons. The first, the practical kind of one, is brain rewiring. We've talked about it, or we've kind of had it mentioned here on the show, I think a little bit, and I do plan to do a full episode on brain rewiring. But when it comes to visualization, visualizing is a key component to rewiring your brain. And so for those that are unfamiliar with what that means to rewire your brain, it's actually a relatively newer development, not like super crazy new, but relatively newer in neuroscience, in the field of neuroscience, which is this concept of neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity shows us that our brains are actually capable of changing both structurally and physiologically. So how smart you are, what you're capable of, what you think of, what you believe in, and so much more can be actually changed within your brain. We can rewire our brains both by growing new neurons, which happens all the time, and also establishing new neural pathways. So those kind of connections between our neurons, those kind of signals that go off at all times with anything that we're thinking or doing or saying, anything that goes on in your brain, there's kind of that connection that happens. There's that pathway. And those pathways can be shifted, can be changed, and we can create a new pathway which has a totally different process. And so that really is neuroplasticity. And then, the process of it is called brain rewiring. So visualization is a tool that many people use to help rewire the brain because it has been shown that your brain doesn't recognize the difference between something that has actually happened and a visualization of something happening. So the more this event takes place, even as a visualization, the more your brain will wire that pathway for that being reality. So continuous mental rehearsal strengthens your ability to create whatever you're visualizing in real life. So it's the continuous practice. And we'll talk about how we can make visualization a continuous practice to really work with rewiring your brain to that new neural pathway for what you're dreaming about, what you're wishing, what your goals are. So I think that is pretty darn cool. And there are other tools that you may or may not already be using that help with brain wiring too. And that includes meditation and mindfulness, which I think all of you know I'm a huge fan of, non-negotiable in my book, but also affirmations and cognitive behavioral therapy, which you would do with a professional. So that's one reason visualization works, because it's essentially creating a new neural pathway and rewiring your brain to create a different reality. Fascinating stuff. And then the second reason, the more, like I said, spiritual path to this, is because visualization works as part of the law of attraction. And like I mentioned in my own story, I was working on that. I was working on my vibrational energy and working to feel how I wanted to feel. And in the process, started visualizing naturally because that's what got me there. So it was already a part of my law of attraction practice just by default. So every moment that you spend thinking about what you do want and getting into the feeling of already having it, like what you would feel, how you would feel if you already had that thing. And we've talked about this tons and tons here on Unstuck already. So you know this, but I'm reminding you, every time you do that, you raise your vibration to be a match for that future you. And then that sends a direct message out into the universe saying, that's what I want. This is what I expect. This is what's coming to me. This is my new reality. So you become a match for your desires just by practicing visualizations. And then it solidifies that message to the universe as you feel it, but then also continue to repeat it. So once again, it's a repetitive practice. So then as the downstream effect goes, as you continue keeping that idea of what you want super active in your mind's eye and part of your mindset practice, you have no other option but to start making decisions and actions towards that future you. There is no other way. You will be approached with something and just say, well, yeah, of course, my future me needs me to go in that direction, needs me to make that decision. So yes, this is not even a question. And you'll start noticing those signs and steps that the universe has laid out for you. And we've talked about some of those signs in the past too on the Unstuck podcast. And your intuition, that lovely, lovely intuition, the one that knows the best path for you, that little voice that's guiding you every step of the way. It's going to show you the exact steps to take to get closer and closer to that dream visualization future you that you're creating in your mind. So it all lines up for you. There will be no other way. So that is pretty cool too. Once again, both so cool, so exciting, so fascinating, and they're all working for you. So as I said, both of these are going to be at play when it comes to visualization. They both are the key reasons why visualization works. So really important to understand and acknowledge the workings of both. So now you might be thinking, all right, cool. Well, I feel like I've been visualizing for sure. I've been doing this. I've been getting into the feeling. I've been seeing my future self with my dream already happening. Why isn't this working? Why hasn't it already happened if I'm doing all of this? Well, what I see that is so common, as soon as I say this, you're going to know, like, of course. Because, of course, this is what we talk about all the time here. But specifically when it comes to visualization is, guess what? We visualize what we don't want to happen just as much, if not more, than what we do want to happen. Maybe we spend 2 to 3 minutes visualizing what we do want while we're meditating or journaling or something like that. But then the rest of the day, we're worrying about what we don't want to happen. And guess what happens when we worry about what we don't want? We visualize how it might look if things went wrong, if things went the opposite direction. So we visualize what will happen if we bomb our presentation or our interview. We visualize what will happen if we don't get that job, if we can't pay our bills, if we embarrass ourselves on that first date. Like all of these things, instead of thinking and visualizing them so strongly about them going right and how it will look and how it will feel, we spend our time visualizing what will happen if it doesn't and how that will feel, because that's our natural tendency, because we want to, or our ego wants to keep us safe. So it thinks that like if we can just understand and prepare for what might go wrong and how badly that might feel, then we can take the necessary precautions to not go that route. But instead, what it's doing, of course, is keeping us stuck and keeping what we want out of reach, keeping us from living our full-on dream life. So this was part of that Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance. You forgot what it's called. I'm reminding you again, because it's not just about Michael Jordan, but he's kind of the main star, I'd say. But The Last Dance, but I distinctly remember this part where he said, "Why would I think about missing a shot I haven't taken yet?" He had absolutely no idea about thinking about what he didn't want. He literally only thought about winning. He only thought about making shots. He only thought about being the best. And that's exactly what he visualized. That's exactly what he believed. He had no other option. That was it. So he spent no amount of energy thinking about not making a shot. So yeah, in that part of the documentary, he was so nonchalant. He was like, why would I think about missing a shot I hadn't taken yet? But that's what so many of us do, and we don't even realize it. So that's one reason why you might be blocking your visualizations from actually coming true, from actually being the superpower that it's meant to be. Another common block may be that you don't believe them. So as I mentioned in the above, when I was talking about or quoting Muhammad Ali, when he said, if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it. So you can think about your visualization. You can get that vision in your mind, so your mind can conceive it, but is your heart believing it? Are you actually believing that whatever your dream is can come true? If you're not, then it's not going to. And we know that. We've worked so hard up until now on understanding more about our stories, our limiting beliefs, and these things that are keeping us stuck. And we've done a lot of work, but once again, here we are with another Unstuck episode talking about becoming aware of those stories. So it's super important for you to have the confidence that that visualization is going to happen, that is going to be your future self. As soon as you have that belief, as soon as you really have that confidence and that clarity around it actually becoming you, well, then there's nothing in your way. All you have to do is keep reminding your brain, kind of, that rewiring process. I like to think of it as like this reminder of like, this is my future, this is my future, this is my future every day until it is set in stone in the neural pathways of your brain that yes, that is your future. And there we go. There is the superpower. All right, let's talk about some steps. I have 6 steps to incorporate visualization into your day. Now, the first one is to have a pretty specific goal. Now, does it need to be super highly, like I can know every single detail for you to start visualizing? No, but get as specific as you can while it still feels good and right and like it's possible. Get that specific. And then as you continue on with this practice, it will just naturally get more and more specific. Some of those spaces will start naturally filling in as you continue this practice. But to start, get some sort of specific goal or dream to work towards. Okay? Step 2, find a quiet meditative state. So I really, really love visualizing as part of meditation. And when I first started this, and still today, that is often when I find myself visualizing. So I'll spend the first however much time getting my mind quiet, taking deep breaths, focusing on my breath, doing some other sort of energy work within my meditation. And then towards the end, or after, if I'm listening to a guided one, after that guided meditation is done, I spend a few more minutes visualizing. So while I have quieted my conscious mind and kind of amped up my subconscious mind, it's a great time to visualize. So see if you can get into that habit. If not, you can also just, take some time, get into a quiet place, get comfortable, take a few deep breaths, at least get into a place where you can quiet your mind before you start this visualization process. Okay? So we've done that. Step 3, we're going to get a mental picture of you already achieving that goal that you just created. So already having achieved the goal, it's already done, you're already there. Get a mental picture of it with as much detail as possible. So what does it look like? Who are you with? What are you wearing? What's going on around you? Is there anything to see, smell, taste, touch? Get as many of those senses going on as you can. Just really try to get as specific and with as much detail as you can. And like I said, at the beginning, there may be some things you're not quite clear on, but then as you continue on, it will become more and more detailed, which is great. All right, so you're going to do that. You're going to get that mental picture. And then once you're there in that place where you've already achieved that goal, what do you feel? So not only are you looking for all of the details that you can see in your mind's eye, but how does it feel? And the great thing about this, and this is why I was doing it kind of unknowingly as part of my mindset practice way back when, was because you can actually feel it. When you are visualizing what it's going to look like, what your future is going to be like when you've achieved your dreams, your body really takes on that emotion. You can really feel that excitement or that contentment or that joy or happiness, whatever it is, you can feel that. And guess what that does? That raises your vibration to be an instant match for the future you. Like, talk about such an intense connection and communication and signal to the universe for what you're looking for. So what do you feel? Then when not only part of that feeling, but in step 5, we want to get really excited about not only that visualization, so what's happening in our future that's making us feel this way, but we want to get really excited about feeling that way because, as we've talked about so many times before, what we're really after is a feeling. And so once you've gotten to that place where you have created this dream life or you've achieved a goal, it's because you got to that point where you achieved your goal feeling. So then get excited about feeling that way too. So not only do we have this immense amount of joy or contentment, happiness, relief, whatever it is that you're feeling when you've achieved that future goal, but also excitement too. Because excitement is really fun to feel. And of course, it's super high vibe. And then step 6, we just repeat over and over and over again. So there is, I think it was Dr. Sanjay Gupta created this 5x6 rule, which is 5 minutes per day for 6 weeks to completely rewire your brain to be a match for that future you that you're visualizing. Okay, so 5 minutes a day for 6 weeks, which sounds like a lot, but I don't think it is. And I think especially once you get into the habit of it, like I said, I've pretty much been visualizing for years, every day for years, because I always have a new dream or goal that I'm looking to achieve. And this is really the best way to get into alignment with it as far as feeling it. So 5 minutes a day, 6 weeks, give it a try. And I think that you will find that you enjoy it so much and you start to see some of it to unfold, that you will continue on. And then, of course, as your goals, your desires, your dreams change, so will your visualization. As things become reality, then your visualization will kind of morph as you go, and it will just tune into something else and tune into something else. So it really does become a full-on lifetime practice. Now, if that seems like a lot and you're like, there's no way I can just find 5 minutes just to visualize for 6 weeks, it's not going to happen. Well, I have some tips for you. First of all, like I said, I love to visualize as part of my meditation practice. So if you're already working on your creating a habit around meditation, well, this hopefully will give you a little bit more oomph to get started and really make that part of your everyday, because you can kind of get a 2-for-1 if you add your visualization to your meditation practice. But also another way that I always incorporate visualization is through journaling. Because think about it, if you're journaling about your future desires, which is my favorite journal practice, is to kind of talk about who I am in the future and what I have and how I feel as my future self when I have achieved my dreams. When you do that, you can't help but be thinking about that and thinking about envisioning it, I guess, and feeling it. So if you're someone who has started a journal practice, see if you can incorporate your visualization into that. And you can also do it when you're like working out or on a walk or chopping vegetables. Again, we just want to get into that meditative state, which a lot of us can do more than just when we're sitting on a meditation pillow or laying down on the couch or in bed and trying to do our meditations. You can get into this place where you can quiet your mind enough to really let your visualization run wild, I guess. And if that's the case, I would highly recommend that. I think taking a walk and spending that walk visualizing your future, pretty fun. That is pretty fun. All right, so I will leave you with that. I hope that you give yourself some time to visualize this week and see how it goes. Remember, start with that dream. And make sure you believe that dream is possible. And if you feel a little wall coming up from there, you can, first of all, work through that, build awareness around why. So get really involved in why you don't think that's possible for you, because then you know there's a limiting belief around that. So question yourself a lot about why you don't actually believe that's true. So that's the first step. We want to always have that level of awareness with what we're trying to work on here. But then also dial back your visualization to be just a little less specific. Just a little less. See if you can take out one little piece that you don't quite believe yet and visualize what you can believe while working to kind of break up those patterns, those limiting beliefs. And then as you go and continue with your awareness and your questioning and your creating of new beliefs, get more and more specific. And I can't wait to hear how visualizing has been your superpower as we continue on with this. Please make sure to let me know. Send me a message over on Instagram at Sean Miner. Let me know how this is working for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you're visualizing. Hey, I just want to chat. So make sure you connect with me over there. And if you are loving the Unstuck podcast, I would so love for you to share the show with a friend and let's build this Unstuck community. I would also love it if you could leave a review on iTunes for this show. I will leave a link to do so in the show notes. I'm at almost 200 5-star reviews. I would love to get over that 200 mark, if you would be so kind as to head over there, leave a 5-star review. Let me know what you're loving about the show. I read every single one, and I am so grateful to everyone that already has. It really means so much, both leaving a review, sharing with your friends and family, building up this community. It's been wonderful to see. So thank you so much. And until next time, take care.